What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentleman Podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Dan,
I'm Matt.
and thank you for taking the time to nerd out about music with us. We have been gone for a while,
Yes.
and we feel like we probably owe you guys an explanation as to why. Life, life has been pretty crazy, pretty much across the board. We went on a vacation, which was probably the only nice part of why we've been gone for a little while. And
Yeah.
that was probably only accounting for about 10 days of this hiatus.
Yeah, that was like immediately following our last episode, I think. Like we dropped one and then we went on vacation and then it's just been pure chaos since
Yeah,
then.
I started getting hit up while on vacation for emergency work stuff, which had to get handled. So that was fun. As soon as I got back, I walked into that. And then that went on for a while. Unfortunately, I also lost my grandmother, which was also a difficult period of time.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
my mother-in-law is also moving closer to us, and she is moving into a new house. So there's been a lot of work to go along with getting that house ready for her to move in. So that's been another pretty time-consuming situation. All the while still working full time, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife is starting a new job soon, so that's exciting as well. But just things are pretty much,
Lots of
it's been
life.
one after the other. Yeah.
Yeah. My air conditioner broke, so we've been having technicians come out left and right to try and diagnose and fix it, and uh, in addition to like my usual stuff of class and work full time, and
Right. Yeah.
you
You
know,
work full time. You're a full time student, so that's tough too. I mean, you guys already knew that sort of, but
yeah,
still, that doesn't change the fact that that's a very time consuming thing. So,
yeah. And
with
then
his,
like when one of us was available, the other person had something going on. We just like couldn't sync up to find a time to actually record, and we have yet to find an idea for something that really works with just like one person talking to themselves as a podcast format. So, maybe in the future we can figure something out and just, have a feed of content with one of us if we both can't sync up or something.
but yeah, I was gonna say to touch on sort of what you started there with the I mean, your availability was already, with how much you have going on, just at a baseline with work and school is already, tough, and then my availability became shit as well. So
Yeah.
and it was just like, this is impossible. And like you said too, I mean, yeah, the one person, talking to themselves for 30 minutes or however long it might be, idea is there. It's just a matter of, I mean, we already feel pretty insane as it is. I feel like that's probably, it's probably not great for, I mean, we might give it a try sometime. I don't know, but it's tough. And,
Yeah.
we've talked about like bringing other people into the mix, but like, that I don't know if that how right that feels, and we also don't have many friends that listen to the same shit as us, so it's like we don't have a very deep bench in that regard. So
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, it
so
is
it's tough. It's
difficult to
tough, but
navigate. And I think because like this podcast is kind of like was built upon you and I enjoying like chatting about this. So when we do a podcast with not both of us chatting about it, then it kind of feels like that's
like a
not why we're
different thing.
doing. Yeah, it feels like
Yeah.
its own
Which like might
beast.
which might be okay as like filler, but
Yeah.
the core of this podcast is this right here. So it's like we try to this is why we try to make it so this is what it is, and that's why, part of why it took so long to sort of get back into it, with everything going on between us. But
Yeah, I
we're here
mean,
now.
yeah, and I
uh
guess with the long hiatus, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and there's been a
yeah.
shit ton of stuff that's happened
Oh
and
man,
since our
yeah.
last episode that we can talk about. So,
Yeah, and it probably more than we'll touch on in this episode. This is going to be a general transmission episode. Basically, we're just gonna kind of try to get caught up on all the happenings that, since we've been gone in a way, and sort of get back into the swing of things. But one thing that I noticed that we were kind of having a conversation, and I figured that conversation might be cool to sort of have here as well to start this off, is that like it seems like heavy music is becoming a lot more like into the mainstream in a way. And I think that's been a trend these last couple of years, but it seems like really recently, uh, that's been a thing that I've recognized on, social media, different creators and stuff like that on TikTok and, Instagram and all that stuff are pushing content that, is featuring heavier songs or artists or whatever, or themselves, creating heavy music or whatever in short spurts on like TikTok and stuff. Um, so I figured let's start to hash that out a little bit because there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I've definitely seen more like there's a lot more like collaborations with metal artists and like more mainstream artists. Like I don't know, for example, I just saw the other day Beartooth. They have a feature with Hardy, the country musician, and like I know the same thing. Like Bill Murray is doing that kind of stuff. Like he's got like more mainstream, like he actually has a country artist in the song like All Gas and stuff. Like there's a lot more like, and I feel like country's much wider listened to genre, so they're kind of like branching out. And while I'm not really a country fan in pretty much any regard, actually like the Bill Murray single's pretty solid. I think it's cool and stuff. I do like that it seems like it's getting more popular, although it's like cautiously excited, I think. Is like, oh, more people will get to experience this awesome music. But then also, is that going to like drastically change the metal scene and make the music more poppy? And not
And we
Poppy the
see
artist, but
right.
Poppy genre.
We do see a little bit of that though too, but um, in bands like Spirit Box who are kind of starting to go a little bit more mainstream with their metal, um, bands like Sleep Token who sort of bridge that gap from like pop music to metal music gaining so much traction. Um, but some of the things that I wanted to point out too, like it's an interesting landscape when Demi Lovato is on Octane Radio doing pig squeals. That's pretty like I don't know what universe we stumbled into where that's happening, but that's happening. And talking about how she wants to work with bands like Bad Omens and Knocked Loose, and then that's another thing, Knocked Loose performing at Coachella, and then Billie
Yeah.
Eilish sitting there at the side of the stage watching their set. Like that's a huge artist and
Yeah.
enjoying a band like Knocked Loose, who, granted, I mean they're amazing, but uh, they're not. That's not really who you would. That's not the scene that you would anticipate or expect
Yeah.
a band like that to be performing in. So that's super interesting. Artists like Chris Brown, not to be confused with Chris Taylor Brown or whatever the hell his name is from Trapped, who's dog shit. But like the pop R&B, whatever the shit he is, Chris Brown, the one that beat the shit out of Rihanna.
So also still a piece of shit, just a different piece of shit.
Still a piece of shit, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, different type of piece of shit. Talking about how he vibes with heavy metal music on like Shannon Sharp's podcast. So it's just interesting to see all these figures who are sort of in that like the music mainstream, the popular music mainstream, like talking about how they enjoy or want to work with or want to, do something in regards to heavy music is sort of putting different eyes onto this scene, and for better or for worse, I suppose. But I mean, and then the other thing I wanted to bring up too, it's like there's a lot of content creators and influencers, like I think her name's like Casey Carlson. Casey,
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know if you've seen her. She does like all kinds of metal covers, and she also has a band. Who they're actually pretty decent as well. I don't remember the name of them. I'm literally just pulling this out of my ass right now. But
I feel like I probably would recognize the
you would
person if I
definitely pretty
saw
much
her.
anybody, like if you have ever listened to a metal song and then open TikTok, your algorithm likely put her on your feed.
Is she
Um,
like bleach blonde hair?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah, I know exactly
yes.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
Um, and she like, I mean, she does so, her numbers are so high on the videos that she posts that her band actually got like put on like Blue Ridge Rock Festival,
That's
which is like
cool.
a huge festival. So it's like it's interesting to see, it's you don't have to just do a cover of a Taylor Swift song to get popular in the metal scene anymore.
Yeah.
To get like mainstream popularity in the metal scene anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
she's out here covering actual metal songs and then writing her own stuff.
Yeah, I've seen she's done like To the Hellfire and
Yeah,
stuff
she
like
did.
Lorna Shore and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, they've also blown up too,
Which is
but
also weird.
I
Like that
know.
was a trend for a while.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you said, a lot of, I think it started with bands covering like Taylor Swift and other like pop songs and doing the sort of like punk goes pop kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
deal. But now there are people covering other also still fairly obscure metal songs and getting big. And it's like it'd be different, I think, if people were covering like Sleep Token because they're kind of now in the pop scene, like as far as like fan base goes. Like
But I
there's
also
so many
I
listeners.
still feel like without this trend towards like metal going to the mainstream, like would Sleep Token be as big as they are? You know what I mean? So I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know if they're like a symptom or a like you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I don't know if if their popularity is a symptom of this or if it's like just part of what's actually the cause. You know what I mean? Like, is it
Yeah.
because they bridge that gap that is getting more listeners into the scene, like that's causing this, or is it? Oh well, now metal music is a lot more accepted, and oh, this is
Yeah.
a band that we can listen to. Like, I don't know. Um, I mean, you have that girl that went on America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent or one of the something's Got Talent. Doing a Spirit Box song or whatever and actually getting through to the next round or whatever. I don't. She might have even won. I have no freaking clue. I don't watch
That's
that shit.
cool.
But it's like it's interesting that like. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember back in the day, like on American Idol, there was a dude that went in and did like a Silverstein song
No, I
and
don't remember that.
just got laughed off the stage, right? Like you just like,
Yeah.
what was that, right? But now you can go on America's Got Talent, arguably, or Britain's Got Talent or whatever, arguably a larger stage and get through to the next round doing metal. Like I think that's a prime example of this isn't Norway's Got Talent where they probably get 50% black metal artists. Like this is
Yeah.
so it's interesting to see sort of the evolution, the acceptance um, of heavy music sort of happening before our eyes when back the one negative thing for me, well one of the negative things for me about this is I've seen a very large resurgent of the word screamo.
Oh, really? I haven't
Yeah,
seen that,
like
but
I don't think I'm super pumped about that.
that
And
is like the one word for me that's like triggering in the like I'm not like a genre like gatekeeper person. Like I feel like you could make an argument for pretty much any band of like they have elements of X subgenre of metal and like that's fine. Whatever you feel like it goes in, like sure. But the screamo thing is like the one term that I feel like non-metalheads use to encompass all metal and it's like a very like particular subgenre of metal that's like actually like emo music with screamy vocals and it's usually also like the derogatory version that sort of like it's used in a way that's like oh that screamo music
yeah, it's
and
a slur to me. I
yeah
don't like it. I
yeah
don't like it.
it feels like they're talking down to metalhead fans and it's
Yeah.
like that you can't use that.
But yeah, I think that's sort of the biggest negative for me, which again, that's a superficial one, but I still don't like it. The changes in music, like in metal music as a result of this trend, I think has pros and cons. Um cuz like some of the blend of, different styles, whether it's, you know, poppy type lyrics, not again, not the artist poppy, but like, pop
Yeah.
lyrics or vocal styles or whatever, or sort of bringing in sort of a hip hop type of vibe to the beat that's playing or whatever, or different synthy stuff or whatever that sounds more like in the R&B, hip hop, whatever scene. Um, I don't hate it across the board. I think we're getting an interesting array of music, sort of, or styles or experimentation, which as a prog fan, you welcome some, if not all of that. Some bands do take it too far, and that's
Yeah.
where it starts to get, experimentation for experimentation's sake can be a bad thing. But I always welcome, sort of the blending of genres or the changes, experimentation, whatever. So I do think it probably overall is a good thing in the scene, but I know people who are just traditionalists who are just like, just give me my metal as heavy as possible. I want my face to be drooped to my knees the whole time I'm listening to this. Like, I get that.
Yeah, just
So I'm
want it to be
sure that
heavy caveman riffs and
so I'm sure people who feel that way wouldn't agree with me there, but I think overall it's a good thing for the scene. Uh
I think
and
it's
yeah,
like you said, like particularly for the prog scene, it's good because they can borrow more like things from like the pop scene and throw it into music and experiment and create different stuff. And so, the whole thing with prog is, you know, kind of changing and experimenting and doing new unique things like uncharted musical territory. And so I think it's good for prog. Maybe not necessarily like if you're, into like straight up like deathcore or, like death metal where you want more like chuggy, heavy down-tuned stuff and like that's it. You don't want like weird instruments in there and stuff, but I
I
think
think the
overall
good
it's
thing
good.
I think the good thing there though too is it's not usually those genres that are adapting this. You know what I mean? Like
That's true.
your death metal is gonna, you're not gonna have like a Justin Bieber verse in a death metal song. Like that's just not gonna happen. Um, or at
Yeah.
least not as much, I suppose. Maybe there are some bands that would do something like that, but like for the most part, those genres and the bands in those genres aren't changing that
Yeah, and
much.
it seems like you often like with those you get sort of like branching off subgenres, so you get like your symphonic death metal instead, but like, your straight up death metal still exists. It's not like it's gone and every band went into like the symphonic scene or like two other subgenres. They kind of just like split, it kind of becomes almost like a hydra. It's like, well, now we've
Yeah.
just got two heads of death metal and stuff. So I think like I don't think that pop infiltrating metal will like ruin metal. It will just create more subgenres of metal and more for people to enjoy and find their
Yeah.
niche.
Something for everyone.
Yeah. Now that's
We're
something
we're a
everyone can enjoy.
we're a family genre, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're we're for all folk.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so that was a cool discussion. I like that. But speaking of just basically being gone for a long time and having all this stuff change sort of across the landscape, we've had a lot of new records, singles, band lineup changes, like all kinds of stuff have happened. And I know we're not going to touch on all of it, but we're gonna touch on some of it, at least the ones that stuck in our brains that we you know bands that we obviously listen to on a frequent basis that we feel like talking about their shit, and that's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna start that with Tesseract because they dropped an easy top 3 album of the year contender thus far, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It's honestly, I mean, like with that first single they dropped, like we kind of had an idea that it was going to be heavier than their other albums, but it's man, they definitely leaned in on the heaviness.
They did. I mean, Daniel Tompkins has sort of flirted with heavy vocals for a while. Um, and yeah, I think that flirtation ship became a relationship on this record.
Yeah.
He I the changing of styles while still sounding like still rooted in that Tesseract sound. Um, it was cool to see that type of evolution. It wasn't like a full 180, or they're not blast beating and doing all this crazy shit. Like it's just like it's their ambient style of progressive metal that djenty style of progressive metal,
Yeah.
while throwing in an occasional like longer solo riff that I'm used to hearing them do, because that's something that usually they stay pretty ambient across the board. So they did experiment a little bit on the instrumentation side, and then vocally, it's just a masterclass of every type of vocal. He really displays his range on this record, um, and shows the fact that he's one of the best vocalists in progressive metal. Period. I mean, he has been for a while, but he really flexed his muscles here on this one.
Yeah, I like that it's still very noticeably Tesseract. Like you wouldn't be mistaken like when you hear the clean vocals, it's like, oh, for sure this is Tesseract. But then like when the heavies come in, like the screaming vocals and stuff, it goes so heavy and like, oh wow, like I wasn't expecting this. And yeah, I think his vocal range is really good. Like he's got such like he can hit such high notes singing clean, but also has some like pretty heavy like low growls and I mean,
Yeah,
even
he
that
even
like
gets deep, like that, like guttural deep sound, like
yeah
which I didn't expect from him. Because like, I mean, on Sonder, like he does a little bit of high or a little bit of heavy vocals on that record, and he sort of uses that style a good bit on the new record, um, but he gets into those lows, and you're just like, where did that come from?
yeah
Which I again, I'm super pumped that he sort of went down that avenue. I personally think that this is their best record since Altered State,
yeah
which it's not better than Altered State. That record is a all-time record for me. But
yeah
it's probably better than I wish Sonder was longer. That's my only knock on Sonder, because that album is pretty fantastic, but you know, it's an EP masquerading as a record, as a full length. So it's tough for
yeah
me to sort of put that above much of anything in their discography just because of that. But Saunders fantastic. But Altered State's just next level.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's one of those albums that just kind of holds a special place, so it's hard to like dethrone. I think for people that like the heavier vocals, I could see how they would put this record over Altered State just because like
they would be wrong, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
it's like I mean from a preference standpoint if like you prefer the unclean vocals like if you're more of like a progressive death metal fan I could see why you would lean this album over Altered State because it's so like clean vocal heavy in Altered State and but like the instrumentation is very similar so I could see like how
They
these would
definitely
be in the
get.
same talks.
I was gonna say, even the instrumentation gets heavier on this record, which I enjoy seeing that side of them. But yeah, Altered State, maybe one. I might even put one above this record. Uh,
Hmm.
Maybe, but that's the question mark. It's probably a coin flip between those two. This is either my second or third favorite Tesseract record. Um, so
I want to play
definitely.
the video game that they put out.
Did it? Is it still Kickstarter? Like, is it still like they're trying to develop it, or is it actually out?
It's out for purchase. I don't know if it's still considered like a beta, like the game preview, but it is available for purchase on Steam. And it is, I think, predominantly like a VR experience first, but it is able to be played not in VR.
Interesting.
It's like it seems like it's sort of like a first person like almost like a walking simulator game. I know a lot of people like use that term as like derogatory of like games. It's like, oh, you just walk around and talk to people. It's lame. But I enjoy those types of games, like the experiential things. It seems like that's what it is. But
I think it might make it cooler, the fact that it's sort of like an album, like a record accompaniment type of deal. Like
yeah,
you know what I mean. So I could see how like oh, I want to play a video game. This is what I'm gonna play, and like that being kind of boring. Like if you had going into it not understanding, like this actually has context to it, to where if you're a Tesseract fan and you enjoy this record and you want to like sort of get into the lore around it or whatever, I could see this being kind of a cool thing to. That's a cool way to do that, you know.
Yeah,
Like I feel like bands like Coheed and Cambria should do that.
yeah.
There's my Coheed
Not
reference.
not the
Um,
Infinite Runner game that they put out
yeah, that game was bad.
that was broken.
Um, it was broken, but they had another game out too at one point. It was kind of like a Mortal Kombat, but like really poorly designed. It was called like Fight for the Keywork or something like that.
Oh, was that an like
It
an
was an
app
iOS
game
game,
on
yeah. Yeah, it was bad. I had it. I couldn't figure out how to even play it, so I was just like, oh, "This is dumb." So, but I feel like they would benefit. Like it would be cool to have something like this for the Amory Wars universe. But that's gonna
Yeah.
be hopefully my own. Not hopefully. I don't give a shit. But probably my only Coheed reference on this episode. But I got it in there. Um,
Fit it
uh,
in.
but also Tesseract has a tour, and they're coming to North America, and I got tickets, and I'm pumped.
I did not get tickets.
And you're sad.
I'm a sad boy.
But
It's
yeah, they're touring with, I think in North America, I don't know if there's two sets of lineups or if it's just North America gets intervals and alluvial. Because I know Unprocessed is also on the bill, but I think it's only for specific shows, and I don't think any of them are in the U.S. Because I would so much rather have Unprocessed is so good. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so Tesseract, alluvial intervals. I'm gonna be seeing them here in like I don't
Was
know,
it the
couple
11th? It's
weeks.
like
I
10
feel like,
days.
yeah. So really pumped about that. This will actually be my first time seeing Tesseract, which is crazy because I've seen so many other bands so many freaking times. Like I've seen Between the Buried and Me almost 20 times. I feel like at this point, Coheed, I'm in the 20s. Contortionist, too many, like not too many, but a lot of times. Um, and I've never seen Tesseract. So
That's crazy. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that show.
Yeah, I really want to see them too. I hope like
Just make it happen.
it'll end up working
School's
out, but
not important.
it'll be a probably like a game time decision because my final presentation is due the next day. So depending on like if I can get it done early enough, then I could go maybe. But
Finals are overrated, you know?
it's only I think like 60% of my entire semester grade for this class. So
Just yeah, well, do you get any points for putting your name on the paper? Or?
I don't think so.
Well, shit. But so hopefully you can come. I know our buddy Brandon. I think he's coming with me.
Nice.
And we did not get seats, so because I feel like it's disrespectful for the first time ever seeing a band to be sitting in a seat eating chicken fingers. So, while
Have a
that
burger
does
instead
sound
then.
that does sound enticing, I'm gonna try to give it the full the full effect here. So we'll see how that goes with my old age and my
Mosh to war being.
deteriorating spine. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that show. Looking forward to
Yeah,
that.
that'll be cool.
So moving off of Tesseract, another band who put out a song with Daniel Tompkins and
More
and
Tesseract.
yeah, yeah. Moving on from Tesseract, here's more Tesseract. Earthside. So it's been a very long time, and I actually want to look that up real quick because Earthside dropped a record a while ago that I feel like is super underrated. And Earthside's shtick is sort of like most of their songs feature like other artists, other like they bring in vocalists from other bands to do vocalists. They're mostly, I think they're completely an instrumental outfit, and then they bring in like they feature vocalists, or in
Huh.
some cases they feature like orchestras and all this, and it's like their music is awesome.
Do they tour then? I honestly like
They
don't know a
have
ton
toured.
about.
They have toured. And usually what they've done in the past, from what I've seen, I've never seen them live, but I've seen some videos of them live, and the ones that feature vocalists, they usually have music videos that accompany those songs. And like they have some version of the music video sort of playing on a screen with the vocalist who was featured. And I don't know if they record something specific with that vocalist whenever they have them there doing the music videos, like to have something to sort of display live. But the vocals are it's a track
Okay.
when they play live. They still play the instruments live, but the vocals are a track.
Okay.
From what I've seen, again, I've never seen them live. I've just seen a couple of videos. But
I was gonna say, there's no way they could like round up all of the like singers for their sets if they do like a different singer on every track.
They should just aim to tour with one of the bands with one of the vocalists, and then give everybody sort of at least one song with a live singer. That could be cool. But
yeah.
So Earthside Tesseract, maybe they have a couple songs with Daniel Tompkins. So the original record came out in 2015. It was called A Dream in Static, which is actually the title track is what Daniel Tompkins is on back in 2015. But the highlight song from that record for me is called Mob Mentality with LaJean Witherspoon from Seven Dust.
Oh, okay.
And that song is amazing. It's like 10 minutes long. I mean, Prague, but it's amazing. And it also has the Moscow Studio Symphony Orchestra on it, and that whole song is just incredible. So when Earthside announced that they're finally releasing another record, 8 years later, probably by the time it comes, I don't know, I think it does come out in November. So 8 years later, I was super pumped. And the first single, one of the first, well, it's not the first. They released 2 singles before the first vocal feature single was with Daniel Tompkins. And so again, they're bringing him back, which I think is sweet. And it's a song called Let the Truth Speak. Very similar style to like sort of the first song with him. And I mean, if you've not listened to Earthside, definitely go check you as well. I'm talking to you, Matt, but also everybody else. Like, go listen to Earthside. They also have a song that they just released, I think last week, but very recently, called Pattern of Rebirth, with AJ Channer from Fire from the Gods. I don't know if you listen to Fire from the Gods at all.
Yeah, I dig Fire from the Gods.
But that song is pretty sweet. It's a little slower, little different style. Not slower, but it's a different style than what I'm used to from them. But that kind of makes sense with AJ Channer. Fire from the Gods is they have some progressive elements, but they're an interesting band.
Yeah, I don't know what category you'd put them in. Like,
I don't know either.
To kind of like hard rock ish but also like reggae.
Yeah, they have some reggae elements.
Like hip hop too.
They have a song that it's called End Transmission, that I would put in like that probably is their most progressive song. From a musical standpoint, that's probably their most progressive song. So if you've never listened to Fire from the Gods, listen to the song End Transmission. That's probably the one that our audience would gravitate to the most. Maybe I'll throw that on Jams of the Week this coming Monday. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, because that's a great song. But
it's also a cool band name too.
It is a cool band name. But yeah, so I'm excited to see that they're finally putting out a new record. I'm excited to see that the 2 features they've already announced are big ones. Are already released with Daniel Tompkins and AJ Channer. Like, that's super cool. So I'm excited to see what other features end up being on this thing, and yeah, so definitely keep an eye out for the new Earthside record. I think it drops in November. So
oh, cool. I have listened to Earthside, admittedly not a ton, but I haven't listened to any of these new singles. I need to check those out, especially that Daniel Tompkins one. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Can't miss anything that Daniel Tompkins does.
For sure. Moving on to another band that's super high, usually on our list, and that's Silent Planet. They have dropped 4 singles. One's been out for a while. That's Signal. I feel like it's been out for a while, but their most three recent singles, Antimatter, Collider, and Anunnaki. Um, a different direction, maybe a little bit. Maybe not Anunnaki. I feel like that's kind of a pretty much straight down the middle Silent Planet track.
Yeah, I think that actually, like, their trajectory is like with their bassist leaving and like the lineup change and stuff, and then they put out Signal, Antimatter, and Collider. That there's definitely like still the core of Silent Planet there, but they're definitely like leaning real heavy into like the like synthy electronic stuff, and it's
Especially with Antimatter.
yeah, yeah,
Like
and
that song very much leans into that like synthy 80s vibe.
yeah,
Like
for sure. Even the music video feels very like vaporwave, like 80s. It's like there's like that scene they're like dancing in like a club with like neon lights and stuff. Feels
yeah.
very 80s like. Um and like I like some of it, but I I love the core Silent Planet sound. So I was like a little nervous the direction. There's like, is the whole album gonna be like this? But then they came back with Anunnaki, which is like, oh, okay. So they're gonna have some like, your what you know and love from Silent Planet on here.
It's not a fully experimental record.
Yeah,
Um
exactly.
I part of me feels like, and I don't know if this is true, so this is just me speculating, so it's probably not true. But part of me feels like, you know, so it's Garrett doing all of the clean vocals now. Where before it was their bass player whose name I think what's his name?
Thomas Frex, I think, is
Yes.
this.
Yes. So I don't know how expected or whatever his departure from the band was. So I wonder if these parts were written differently with the expectation that it would be Thomas doing the vocals, and then when he departed it was like, well, someone else has to do it, and then Garrett's like, well, I'll do it. And then it's maybe not from an instrumental standpoint, like maybe they always expected this to be more synth whatever, but I feel like the vocal filters and all that stuff on the clean vocals for Garrett, which I don't know if he even needs them. I mean, he sounds pretty good on on this record. Maybe that's just, production magic, or maybe he just actually
Yeah,
sounds good on this record. But so I don't know if that's a thing where he's just hesitant to
to
fully
venture
show the
into the
world,
clean
yeah,
vocal. Yeah,
or if it's just he's using this to mask like maybe an insecurity about his clean vocal ability. I don't know. He sounds good to me. Um,
yeah.
so
The
I
bassist
don't
name
know
is
if
Thomas Freckleton, not Frex. His Instagram handle is
Freckleton.
Frex.
I
Yeah.
like Freckleton. Um, but yeah, so I
Want
don't
to
know.
correct
I don't know
myself
what
there.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm off base there. Maybe I probably am, but it's just that's what popped into my head was just like, maybe he's just masking a potential insecurity, which just go for it. You know what I mean? Or maybe this
Yeah.
was always the plan. I don't know. But I know a lot of these songs are sort of a result of, they had that van accident, like that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I know that Garrett wrote these songs, some of which I think Antimatter and Collider, maybe not Anunnaki, but Antimatter and Collider were written as like sort of a result of, that van accident. So I don't know if maybe that's why they made those two songs in particular sound the way that they do. I have no idea. They're artists, they do what they want to do. It doesn't sound terrible. It's just not necessarily what I expected from Silent Planet. A lot of people love it. I feel like they are the probably very polarizing though in the scene.
Yeah. I think for me, I I enjoy Collider. The like kind of abrupt change to like the drum and bass like electronic sound at like that first like third of the song. It felt like kind of jarring the first time that I listened through it, but after a few more listen throughs, like I think overall I like that song. And I feel like as the songs have been released, I like them more. So that kind of just based off of that like trend of like Antimatter was like, okay, there's some stuff here I like. Then Collider was like, okay, this song overall I like a decent bit. And then Anunnaki, I'm like, okay, I really like this song. So it gives me faith that like I'm going to overall enjoy the whole album, and that also like it's not all gonna be like purely like electronic stuff, which I like electronic music. And like I think its influence in metal I also enjoy if it's done right. But it's for me it can kind of detract from the music, so I'll have to like reserve judgment for the full album. But I'm optimistic so far that I think I like overall the sound.
Yeah, I feel like anybody listening to this or who's listened to us in the past knows how I feel kind of about the electronic influence in metal. I'm like 80-20 against it most of the time, but like I as I said earlier, I welcome experimentation. I think it's overall a better thing for music in general, but specifically metal. Um, it's just not necessarily like in this regard, like the electronic stuff isn't necessarily something I vibe with a lot personally. But that's just my own personal opinion. Some people like that kind of, you know, that more electronic leaning stuff. Um, that's just not for me personally, but I do like it on occasion, and I think Collider grew on me a little bit. Antimatter still has yet to do that, but
Yeah.
it could, and I do think that just because a band experiments doesn't mean that they suck now, or doesn't mean that the album in its entirety is going to be bad. Um, and just because you don't vibe with a particular record doesn't mean that now that band's like going down,
Yeah.
a
Well,
path and
it,
whatever. So
and it could even be like they just wanted to like get some experimentation out there, and then like maybe this album is more experimental, and then they're like, okay, we got that out of our system, we're gonna go back to being the Silent Planet you know and love. I mean, they also could be like, well, we really like this, and then keep going down that path too. But sometimes bands are like, we just want to do something different to like sort of shake off the cobwebs
a
and
palate cleanser.
yeah, and like get a fresh writing take, and
Yeah.
kind of try something else.
Yeah, and I side with you in the sense of I'm gonna reserve judgment until it's out,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna approach it with an open mind. If something sounds good, it sounds good. You know what I mean? So it
yeah,
doesn't. I like a lot of different genres, a lot of different artists, whatever. And I don't. I'm not gonna say that every band that ever does anything electronic, I'm just gonna immediately be like, well, that's shit now. Like if it sounds good, it sounds good. So we'll see.
yeah.
We'll see what happens, but um, so yeah, looking forward to that record. I think that might even come out in November. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like November's a big month for releases this year, so we'll have to keep our eyes out on that. But
Happy birthday to me.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, so speaking of bands with new music, continuing this trend, let's keep rolling. This is a local band who's gaining a little bit of traction. I mean, I've had people in the Coheed and Cambria scene. There they are again. Um, comment on how they like this band. People who are not from the Pittsburgh area, so they're
Nice.
getting their name out there. And that band is Space Weather. They kind of fall under that like Dance Gavin Dance Idola umbrella. We've talked about them in the past. I think we had them on a Hidden Gems at some point.
Yeah.
Um, and we interviewed their drummer, but not talking about Space Weather. He's also the drummer for Nefel. Shout out to Jake. What's up, buddy? Um,
What's up, Jake?
but yeah, they just dropped a new song called Dead Rose Canvas. Have you listened to that yet, Matt?
I have not listened. That would just came out
It
Friday,
just
right?
came out,
Yeah.
yeah, like today, yeah, no, 2 days ago. My life is crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we've
but
been dealing with assorted AC people over the last 2 days, so
yeah,
it's been
fun stuff, fun
yeah.
stuff. But so to me, and I've listened to their entire discography, Dead Rose Canvas is their best sound yet.
Ooh.
It's a fantastic sort of I don't want to say final form because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more. Um, but if this was their final form,
It's a
I
good one.
think that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like this is the type of sound that gains traction, that sort of catapults a band from being sort of local legends, so to speak, to like on the national stage.
Nice.
And I genuinely think that this sound is going to take them places.
I'm excited to
They
hear the song. I mean, I really liked Silent Hex and Pyroclasm. They're other two singles that have been out for a while. I feel like they're putting so much effort into the production of their music. Like honestly, like you said they're in the vein of Dance Gavin Dance. I like them better. I I
I
think
agree. Yeah,
I think their music is more interesting.
but
It's
everyone knows how I feel about Dance Gavin Dance.
yeah, but I think they do more interesting and like more progressive sounding things than Dance Gavin Dance does. And I think honestly, like, it's I'm sure probably people that are fans of Dance Gavin Dance will be like, "What? No way!" And like that's blasphemy. But like seriously, they're
I want to rile up that fan base.
yeah, yeah.
I put them more like they're less Dance Gavin Dance and more Idola. Like it's
Oh yeah, yeah,
more of like
definitely.
the clean vocal sound. Um, and I really honestly the instrumentals in this, the drumming's always on point. Jake is a fantastic drummer. Massively or underrated, like massively underrated. But that's just because he's not out there yet. You know what I mean? Like when he gets out there, he's going to be, in my opinion, he's right up there with any of the big progressive drummers in the scene. So I'm excited for people to sort of get to witness that as well. But uh, instrumentally, I mean, they're really picking shit up here. I think the guitars are on point. I know they added Cody from I don't know at what point he joined the band, but from Haven State, and I don't know if that sparked a new element or whatever, but really the instrumentals are on point for the song. Um,
I love the like I always see like their posts on Instagram and stuff, and their music videos just are like just so fun
right? Yeah,
too. Like
they're putting everything they can into this. I think, and I think it should pay off. I think it will pay off. I hope for them it pays off. Because
you can tell
they're
that there's
doing
a
a
lot
great
of
job.
love in the music. Like they're all put
Absolutely.
in everything they've got into it, and it's high quality stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So they have a new record. I think this is going to be their debut record technically because I think their only other record's an EP. But it's called Jaded and Dreaming. It'll be out November 10th. If you're a fan of Idola, Dance Gavin Dance, any of those sort of swan core bands, um,
Kind of like
I'd throw
Seder.
Coheed, yeah, Seder. I'd throw Coheed in the mix. Um, Mostly because the only people that I've talked to that have sort of, whenever I've posted things like space weather on our podcast page, I've gotten messages from Coheed fans, like people who I know are like, just judging by their like Instagram name, I know that they're Coheed fans. Like I know that's how they discovered us.
Like
Um,
at Wilhelm Ryan.
exactly, things like that. Yeah, who are just like, oh, I love space weather. Like, oh, they're great. Like it's like, yeah, they're local to us. They're like, oh, that's crazy. That's great. Um, so throw Coheed in the mix if you're a fan of Coheed. Hail the Sun, maybe.
Yeah, I think in like Good Tiger,
Good
like
Tiger.
that kind of vein,
Yeah,
which
if
I
any of
fucking love
these,
them. So
I know you do. If any of these are sort of ringing a bell for you, I would say check out Space Weather. Get in before they blow up.
yeah,
Get in while the merch is cheap.
yeah. They've got some cool stuff I saw they posted for like I think they have vinyl pre-orders and
They
like
do have
and
vinyl,
a
yeah,
merch
which I'm gonna
drop.
have to probably snag one of them here. Oh,
Yeah.
another thing to mention, they have vocal features on this, and one of the biggest vocal feature is Andy from Monuments.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see
Yeah,
that. That's sweet.
yeah, who did a little ad for us as well. So shout out to Andy. But I can't wait to hear what that sounds like. That's gonna be
That'll be
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, throw Monuments into the mix. Why not? So if you just check out Space Weather. Just
Yeah,
check out Space
just do
Weather.
it. Thank us
Jaded and
later.
Dreaming. Jaded and Dreaming coming out November 10th. Definitely check it out. So transitioning to a band that has taken many forms in these last like feel like in such a short period of time, 5 years maybe, 10, sitting at less than 10, 5, 7 years, they've gone through. I think this is like their fourth vocalist. Novelists or Novelists FR, depending on how you want to look at it.
Well, I
Um,
think so. They used to be Novelist FR and Spotify, but now they're Novelists in all caps, and the FR's
okay,
dropped. So I don't know if they like got exclusive, if
they
they got
own it
like
now. It's
the
them. It's
like
theirs.
copyright or trademark or whatever for it,
But
but they dropped the
I,
FR.
I Novelists. So their C'est La Vie record in 2020 was my album of the year. I love that record. I still love that record, and that was with name like Mateo, I think was the name of the singer at that point. Yeah, I think his name was Mateo. I'm trying to remember. Um, and then he left the band for I don't know why, and they replaced him with a guy named Tobias. Um, and they kind of had like more of a hardcore ish sound with him. Um, which I love hardcore music, but that's not necessarily why I like Novelists. Like I like the sound that they sort of cultivated with Mateo. Um, and now he's leaving, and they replaced him with a female vocalist named Camille Contreras. So very interesting sort of evolution of this band. They went from like a sort of down the middle. I would compare them almost to like I don't even know who to compare them to with Mateo, but um you're more traditional like progressive metal with like maybe honestly maybe a Monuments. Like I would probably maybe compare them to like Monuments.
Like a progressive metalcore kind of.
Yeah. With like less a lot less harsh vocals. Um
Okay.
and then they transitioned to more of like a Era meets North Lane meets Knocked Loose. Like it was an interesting combination. Like they did some songs with like Landmarks and stuff like the singer from Landmarks with Tobias, and it was fine. I mean, it was it. Well, I didn't like it as much, but I still enjoyed the music. Um, and now they're transitioning to a female vocalist, and I know that their fan base like didn't like the change to Tobias. Like there was always people commenting like bring Mateo back or whatever, and like I know that that stuff got to them in a way you could tell, and then Tobias leaving and them bringing in Camille Contreras. The first song they released was called "Turn It Up," and then as like keyboard warrior social club in parentheses after it because I think this was just sort of their like fuck you to all the people who were just getting on the internet and saying like, oh, you guys are falling apart, you guys are this band is dying, whatever, like bring back Mateo. Um, and I think Camille, and again, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Camille Contreras. Um,
Looked right to me.
it's an interesting direction. I mean, she's got an incredible vocal range. She does harsh vocals at the end that kind of come out of nowhere. And she sounds just like Courtney LaPlante from Spirit Box, and that's not just because she's a female vocalist doing heavy metal music, whatever. Like, it sounds like she's making like the same sort of like mouth shapes that Court like she. It's like
Yeah.
if you told me that this was Novelist featuring Courtney LaPlante, I would have believed you.
Yeah, that's I need to check this one out. I saw that they put out a new single, but I haven't got a chance to listen to it. I saw that the title was like keyboard warrior thing, and I was
Yeah,
like,
and
"Ooh,
I
what is
believe
this
it's
about?"
currently. I mean, maybe not by the time this posts, but we had it, this week on the jams of the week. So you may have, if you follow that playlist, which if you don't, follow the link in our bio on Instagram. Give that playlist a follow. We update it weekly. With songs that we're listening to, whether they're new or old or whatever. So you either get a blast from the past or you get a little
We
taste
usually
of
have like a
something new.
mix. I feel
It
like,
is usually a mix.
yeah, I
Every
feel
once
like,
in a while, we get in our feels though, and it's just all throwbacks. So
yeah.
you never know what you're gonna get. But um, we do update it weekly. Even through all the bullshit that we've just gone through, we were still updating that playlist weekly. So that's one thing that maybe you can count on from us. But so definitely give that playlist a follow. But yeah, that song was on there. But so you may have already listened to it, but the I'm interested in how this goes. I think this could actually work out for them. Um, not that like the Tobias era was bad. Um, but
Yeah, it just wasn't your favorite of there.
I think this Camille Contreras era might fit the band better. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I don't like the shtick, like the sort of weird keyboard warriors. Like I don't know if I like that like as subject matter. But if they wanted to get that off their chest and then just transition to actually doing what they're doing, that's fine. It's a
Yeah.
jokey thing, and that is what it is. But I think musically, I think this is a good version of Novelists, at least with the sort of bite size taste that we have of what it's going to sound like. So looking forward to that. But speaking of another band who, speaking of changing their sound and sounding different than what they've sounded like and going in a different direction, or
There's actually a
however you
lot of
want to
that for now
there's
that
been a
I'm
lot of
like
that.
catching the trend here.
But Unprocessed, that thrash single, bro.
Oh my god, it's so good.
They came out and said before they even dropped it, this is going to be our heaviest record, and then they dropped thrash, and then they're like, if you thought that was like, first of all, let's just talk about thrash. So, um,
It's so
pro-
wild.
they do like there's blast beats in this shit. There's like this crazy like thump, like tremolo picked thump, palm muted, whatever the fuck's going on riff that I
Yeah,
don't even
it's
know
like
what's going
it
on there.
sounds like he's got like six hands
Sounds like a
playing
growling
this
like
guitar. It's
raptor.
like it's so weird. Like I don't know how, because it sounds like it's muted. Like it's
It's
almost sounds
definitely
like
like
a
palm
string
muted, yeah.
rake, but it also has like a thump, and I don't know how you would string rake and thump. Like you can't like physically hold a pick and do the thumb like Tosin thump thing at the same time. Like you'd have to like
So
do like a weird claw thing.
yeah,
I'm just like trying to picture how a human
so
could make this sound.
I saw he posted a reel of him playing it, and
Oh, did he?
it's all with a pick. There's no string rake. It's just like he's muting, and instead of like how Tosin does the thump with his thumb, how he does like the down and up motion, but he does it like crazy fast, which is what like I mean Tim Henson has also adopted this like style and all that stuff. Like he's instead of doing it with his thumb, he's doing it with a pick, and he's tremolo picking in that like thump style while somehow muting. Like it's interesting. It's definitely out there. It doesn't like sound complex, it just sounds fast. Like to the like to the layman, it doesn't sound like it would be complex, and then you like watch like the techniques that I mean, it's not like it's this crazy technical sounding thing, but it's like when you watch it, it's like that's kind of crazy that and how has nobody done that yet?
Yeah, it's like I've not like it sounds like it's blending so many techniques like we talked about like Tosin does the thumping thing, and then obviously there's the Gent is known for its aggressively palm muting
Yeah.
stuff, but
I think my favorite part about it is they drop everything else out of the track out of like the song. So it's like it's just that for a second, and then they sort of bring everything back in to like it turns it into like a groove almost. And then they'll blast beat with it to play at the speed, and then they drop it. Like it's so interesting. And that doesn't change the fact that um unprocessed are just that the entire band, but especially Manuel, like they're very much instrumental wizards. Like
yeah,
like it's so you get that little thumpy part or whatever, which doesn't sound technical, and maybe maybe you're like, oh, this is, they're just dumbing it down or whatever. He's still doing all this crazy guitar shit. He's still shredding in that song.
Yeah.
And also all the while he does all the fucking vocals too. Like, this dude is insane. By far my favorite guitarist in the scene. And so, I mean, definitely check this out if you haven't. It's so heavy.
It's really cool. It's
And the fact that it's as heavy as it is, and then they come out and say like, "Oh, you like that? You ain't seen nothing yet." Like, it's like I cannot wait for this record.
yeah. It is like it's a crazy turn for them. Like, a lot of the other ones that we were talking about, like some of the stuff was like, the Tesseract one we were like excited about. It's really good, but it's still like it's not as good as Altered State in our opinions. And then like the Silent Planet stuff, but it's like I don't know. I really like this single from Unprocessed, and if the rest of the album is going to be in this similar vein, like this is a even better trajectory for Unprocessed in my opinion. So like this could potentially be like my favorite Unprocessed album if it's going to sound like this first
Yep.
track.
Agreed, 100%.
And that's saying a lot because I love all of the other Unprocessed music. So
Yeah, Noir and Gold, and I mean all that stuff is great. So definitely check them out if you haven't. Check out the single if you haven't. If you've maybe been down on Unprocessed because they just weren't heavy enough for you or something like that, which I know there are some people like that out there.
this will fix that.
This I was gonna say this might fix that for you. So definitely go check this out. But and speaking of bands fixing things,
That's a good segue.
Spirit Box dropped a new single called Jaded, and it actually sounds like Spirit Box again. Yay!
Yeah, it makes me less uh less I guess
Concerned that they're
concerned
gonna
about
go
the new
straight into
album
yeah.
because like so far until this single I was not super excited about any of their other ones. Like there was I forget the because I've only listened to them a couple times because I wasn't a huge fan. Like there was one that I didn't mind.
I think it's Hysteria, maybe, because I think that's the one that I think maybe I liked a little bit. I
Yeah, I
don't
think that was
remember.
the
It's
one that
not
was
Rotoscope because that one's trash, and Sew Me Up I don't think I liked.
Yeah, one of them was like felt very like new metal
Yeah, I think that's
style.
Rotoscope.
Yeah, and I
Or
was
it's like
not.
Sign of the Times.
Yeah,
It's like, oh my god, this is bad.
it felt like almost like that felt like Rob Zombie
Yeah, it was terrible.
kind of feel, and I did not
Yeah.
enjoy that. But Jaded is it feels like Eternal Blue
I would
era.
even go as far as to say like Mara Effect. Like it would even fit there in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Um,
could see.
like the self-titled, like the Mara Effect suite on the self-titled. Like I see it like it sounds like what I want Spirit Box to sound like.
Yeah. So I'm hoping. I mean, that's 4 singles that they've put out.
I think 5. I think well I guess it depends cuz like I maybe that Rotoscope thing was a separate entity. Cuz there's like 3 tracks on that. I think maybe that was a separate entity, but then they had The Void as well, which
Oh,
was like
that's right. Yeah.
okay song, and then Jaded.
Yeah, and I guess Void and Jaded are actually on a separate like EP listing on Spotify. So those other 3, maybe they were just like their experimental stuff, and like Spirit Box, they had a whole album that they ended up piecing together of random assorted singles that they did. So
Yeah.
maybe that was like them testing the waters and doing some more experimental stuff, and they put out that like Rotoscope EP, and then now they're kind of going back to their sound with like the Void, same as what you said, is like it was getting back on track, and then Jaded is like, okay, we're back here
Yeah.
now. And so if they leave those 3 songs off, and they these 2 that they've put out for this upcoming album, or I would assume album,
Yeah.
then that is makes me more excited
Yep.
than I previously was.
Yep. 100%. 100%. So I mean, there's probably not much more to touch on there. I mean, Jaded, we're finally coming back to hopefully a bit of normalcy here. And
Yeah, if you felt the
again,
same as us,
yeah,
then
again,
you might
bands
like
can
this one.
experiment. That's fine, but it's when you start dumbing down your music that I'm just like, you're better than this. And that's how I
Yeah,
felt about Spirit Box. So no shade, go make your money. I mean, they're in that mainstream, sort of back to the beginning, full circle of this conversation. They are definitely a band that is benefiting from this new mainstream uh, sort of appeal to metal music. So, um, go make your money. That's fine, but let's keep the songs like Jaded coming too. So,
yeah. Bring it back to the old school Spirit Box.
so transitioning away from new music and to sort of news in a way, something that we wanted to mention on here and give a shout out to Sal from Thank You Scientist. He's leaving the band. I think it's just wants to be with his family or whatever, just ready to sort of calm down the touring life and all that stuff. And so we just wanted to give him a shout out. Thank you, I mean, he's been a part of some fantastic records, some of which, in my opinion, have made pretty large impacts on the progressive metal music scene. One record in particular, Maps of Non-Existent Places or Maps to Non-Existent Places, um, in my
So
opinion,
good.
is a masterpiece in the genre. And obviously his fingerprints are all over that. So massively underrated record that deserves to have way more sort of accolades. If it so if that's a record that you've not checked out, anybody listening to this, Maps to Non-Existent
Yeah,
Places, Thank You Scientist, um, amazing record. We're thankful to have sort of the body of work that he's put out in this band, and I'm sure the band will probably maybe continue on in some capacity, based on sort of
hopefully.
based on the verbiage of the announcement. It sounds like they're just trying to sort of collect themselves and figure out what the next steps are, and obviously we'll support any of those guys in
Yeah,
any
absolutely.
of their future endeavors. So, um, but shout out to Sal. Thank you for everything that you provided to the music scene, to the metal scene, to the progressive metal scene.
Thank you, scientist.
Thank you, scientist. And I'm glad that I got to see them here not that long ago. I think that might have even been the last show I went to. So with Rivers of Nile and Between the Buried and Me. So
Yeah,
um, glad I got to see him one last time. And till next time.
yeah.
So and then in some better news or some out with one person leaves, another person coming back or another band coming back. Job for a Cowboy is putting out new music.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe haven't they announced stuff previously. I don't. I didn't follow them on Instagram or anything, but I just like opened Spotify one day and it was like new music, Job for a Cowboy single. And I was like, what?
I know, like, I think it's Sumerian that they're on. It's one of those, but I know their label, who I follow, put out a cryptic post like a month or so ago where it was like a briefcase and then like a briefcase emoji and a cowboy emoji and then like a thinking emoji or something like that. It was like where people were just like, "Job for a Cowboy's coming back." So there were signs, but then they just dropped a single on us.
Yeah, the agony seeping storm.
Yeah. So I listened to it once. I've unfortunately not been able to jam it more than that. I honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, don't remember much about it because my life has been a whirlwind, but I know you've listened to it. So
Yeah,
I'll let you take the lead on this one.
yeah, it's cool. I mean, it honestly despite them not putting out music for God, how long has it been? Uh, like probably a decade.
Yeah,
Um,
it's been a while.
they came back and just like swinging for the fences. It's more Job for a Cowboy. It doesn't sound to me like they've done like a drastic change of sound. It kind of feels like we miss what we did. Like, let's get the boys back together and make something new in the same vein. So, it definitely fills that void if you've been missing Job for a Cowboy. I think I'd put it in the same kind of vein as like the Zenith Passage and like those kind of guys. Um, it's a cool track. I mean, I don't know that like with the Zenith Passage putting out their new album, that's up there on my tech death stuff. So I don't think this will surpass that in my opinion, but it's a cool track. So I'm excited to
Nice.
see if they are gonna put out at least more singles this year, or if they're even just gonna drop a full album by the end of the year. I need to look into more of that and see if they might have announcements that I just haven't seen. But I was excited when I saw JFAC on the Spotify thing of like, holy cow,
Oh
that's a band I
yeah.
haven't thought of in a while.
Yeah, back when Ruination came out back in 2009, I went and caught them on that tour. They toured with like Goat Whore or something. And that was a pretty awesome show. And then I actually in college cuz 2009 is the year that I 2009 2000 anyways, either 2009 2010 is the year I started college. I had a poster from that tour on my wall in my dorm, and definitely scared some roommates for sure with that one. Um, but my one roommate listened to black metal and had like all kinds of black metal posters on his wall. So like between him and I, we had I had three total roommates, and yeah, we were on one side of the like apartment style dorm room, and then the other two were on the other side, and we were definitely the scarier side for sure. But yeah, good to see them coming back. Good to see them putting out new music. Looking forward to see sort of what sort of collection of tracks that they put out. See how experimental they get, or how sort of straight down the line, like walk down memory lane. Uh, they end
Yeah.
up sounding. So we'll see how that goes. But um, yeah, I mean that sort of wraps up a lot of this. We have some things sort of coming up here. I know we're going to that Deer Hunter Delta Sleep show together in at the end of October. That's gonna be sweet.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
excited.
I know Delta Sleep has quickly become one of my favorite bands, and
Yeah.
I think that's probably the same for you.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just one of those like the music's so like feel good. It's just like you just throw that on and just like chill out and stuff. It's like so good. It's like it
Yes,
fits like pretty much every mood. You could listen to it.
and they have like a nice mix. I mean, they don't get super heavy, but they have Spy Dolphin, like that's a decently heavy ish song, and yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just something you can put on at any time, and uh, that's what I've always liked about Coheed, and that's what I like about Delta Sleep. Um, and then Deer Hunter playing. I don't know if they're playing Migrant in its entirety, or if it's just they're gonna play a heavy dose of Migrant as part of like sort of the Migrant anniversary tour type thing. But that's what their focus is going to be. I'm definitely more excited for Delta Sleep. I'm not trying to throw any, I've seen Deer Hunter many times, and they're great live, and I do look forward to their set, but really looking forward to seeing Delta Sleep, since this will only be my second time. You're our second time seeing them, so
Yeah.
um, excited to see what their set list ends up being, since we kind of have a pretty good idea of what we're going to hear from Deer Hunter. So um,
Yeah.
on top of that, we're going to try to get some new episodes out. Um, hopefully sooner than 2 months or however long it's been.
Yeah, hopefully
Uh,
life
I
will
know
continue to calm
for
down and we'll be able to have more time to record and put out episodes.
for sure, and I know we've had some bands reach out to us via email and other means. And I think we have probably enough material here to maybe throw out a hidden gems episode here soon. So um, keep an eye out for that. That's likely going to be our next episode whenever we have the time to do it.
Yeah, hopefully in the
Which
next
again,
week or
hopefully
two.
soon. Hopefully
Yeah.
soon. So keep an eye out. Um, and we're gonna get a little bolder as well moving forward with some of the bands that we reach out to maybe get on the podcast for interviews. We've already been in contact with one or two or more, or who knows. We don't want to spoil anything, but of bands that have a good amount of followers, good amount of people who listen to them who would recognize them. So again, we're still working on things with that, but hopefully some exciting news soon. And yeah, as always, thank you for listening to us. Thanks for the patience. Sorry that's been so long, and hopefully again we'll be talking to you guys soon. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks everyone.